Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Coach D. Robinson, and I'm here today with Dwayne and Bonnie Marburger, the Directors of Ministry and Leadership Support for United Marriage Encounter. Dwayne and Bonnie, welcome to Joy in Our Town.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be with you today.
Now, we're going to be talking today with the Marburgers about understanding marriage support. Are you ready for that?
Absolutely.
You bet.
Can you tell us briefly a little bit about Marriage Encounter and why it's so important to the community?
Marriage Encounter is so important because when a marriage is better, everybody wins. Your whole family, your kids, your community, your church, everybody wins. So having a good marriage is the solid foundation of every family.
Amen. So, in today's world where divorce is so rapid, what are some practical steps that you can say to a family that is struggling to help them to stay the course?
Well, I would say one thing is to find time to spend just a little quality time with one another every day. We're pulled so far with our children, with our jobs and other commitments, we don't take that even just 10 minutes a day to talk to one another, to see how your mate is.
Another small thing that they can do also is to set aside at least one day a week for kind of a date night.
That's good. That's practical. What if you have the one spouse says, I realize there's a challenge in our marriage, and the other spouse is not seeing that, or just totally, I don't want to do anything. I refuse. I just cross my arms with it all. How are you working through those type of things, or how can a family work through that?
It's tough, and especially when you're the one that's being hurt. Sometimes it's just a matter of just concentrating on your mate so much and wanting to serve them so much that all of a sudden they see your service and say, hey, they really do love me, and they come back into that relationship.
I don't think statistics do a great service. They do more of a disservice, because you hear them say, well, 50% of every marriage is going to end in divorce. They say that. Well, I say 50% of every marriage is going to stay together. So what do you do when you're faced with that and you're coming in, couples are coming in thinking that, well, we're going to get divorced sooner or later? How do you work with them?
You try to help them recapture a little bit of what drew them together in the beginning. And one of those things too, instead of being constantly critical of your spouse, that you remember to say something encouraging to them each day, or remember to say something special that you appreciate about your spouse, even just the little things.
I see you holding hands a lot in 41 years of marriage. That is so neat and so greatly admired by many. Is there such a thing as 50-50 give and take, or 100 or 80-20? What is a marriage?
It's about a 150-150. You have to give above and beyond what you feel like giving. And it's a commitment. We take that way too lightly this day and age, but you make a commitment to each other. That's a lifelong commitment. And
you say a lifelong commitment, but so many times one party understands lifelong commitment, the other party is, this is not what I signed up for, I'm out of here. But yet that one party wants to keep it together, so what do you do?
The one that wants to keep it together, I guess, has to really find that support group also to be encouraging. Sometimes couples may gravitate toward their in the workplace, or the guys may find that they're running down their spouses, or the wives may find that they're running down their husbands. That's not healthy, but rather, the healthy thing is to find another person or close friend that can be an encourager and to help you hang in there when the going gets a little tough.
Mm-hmm.
we also have to be very careful not to blame our spouse.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not feeling it, I want to blame Dwayne.
Yeah.
And it's not Dwayne's issue, it's my issue. So I have to own it. And so, we try not to be in that habit of saying, well, it's your fault that I, feel this way. Well, it's not. It's mine.
In today's world, we have a lot of cohabitants. They feel that, you know what, I don't want to go through the legal stuff of being married, so I'd rather just live together forever. And that way, if things go wrong, I can just leave. What do you say to that couple?
Well, marriages change, when there's a legal piece of paper, all of a sudden attitudes and expectations change.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess we're not proponents of that,
Yes.
of the cohabitation, because, and then they say, well, we'll get married after we try it out. Well, after you try it out and decide to get married, all of a sudden expectations change.
Mm-hmm. It is marriage encounter,
Yes.
after all. I've run across some times when couples have married, then they divorce legally, go through a period of being away from their mate, and then they want to marry again. Is that recommended, or what are your thoughts on that?
If they are looking back and realize that they've made some mistakes, if they're not going to just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again, it can be a good thing for them to, come back together and renew a commitment to each other. But realizing that they can start afresh and on a little different plane.
We actually did have a couple we've had a few couples on a Marriage Encounter weekend that have done just that.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come back, remarried, and come on a weekend, they're like, oh, now we get it. Yeah. And so they learned where they went wrong, and now they've got the tools to go forward.
Do you offer, what about the families? Are there anything you can do with the families? How do you work with them?
Well, when mom and dad are communicating better, they also can teach their kids how to communicate. Mm-hmm. And we did that with our children. And we had family night, and we sat down, and there was a whole time when we spent time communicating with one another. A great diffuser and a builder of relationships.
That's good. Communication is key. So healthy marriage brings a healthy family, brings healthy individuals, and it makes us for a healthy community, mm-hmm. a healthy world. So marriage is important.
Exactly.
A healthy marriage is important.
Exactly.
Right.
And we want to let our kids know mom and dad are together no matter what.
It's a good standing, solid firm in the community. Amen. What is, well, I understand you have something coming up to help these families in the community.
We have a Marriage Encounter weekend in Bettendorf, November 6 to 8. Okay. And they can go on our website. It's very simple. It's unitedmarriage.org.
So, Bonnie and Dwayne, now you've been married 41 years, and we've talked about this, but back then, people were staying together. Families, they just cuddled together and they just made it work. And the longevity, you hear of, my grandparents were married, I think it was 70 some years. That's a long time. Today, they say, you know what? I don't like what you're saying to me. You yelled at me the wrong way. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. What is happening to the world now? What's going on?
People seem to have gotten a lot more selfish in their interests, and even they don't make commitments as readily to job or other activities that they're in. If it's a sports team that they're playing with a group of guys, again, if they're not getting along or something, one of them may just say, I'm out of here, and lose out on the benefit of the exercise and good health. And same thing's true in relationships.
We've made the mistake of becoming a microwave disposable society.
Yes.
We want a quick fix, and if it doesn't work, we throw it away.
Yeah.
And look at the garbage dumps. They're full of garbage. Mm-hmm. And so when we work with our garbage and recycle it and make it better, it makes everything all better.
That's right. You can go online today and say, oh, here, get a divorce, $50. It's just crazy how it is. It's not that way. There's no working it out. There's no marriage encounter, all of those things. How can a family that is doing the right things be an example and a role model in the community that maybe even could be a step that someone has someone to look to. Well, how can they do that? What does that look like?
Well, regardless of where you are, whether you're in the grocery store or some other store, people see you.
Yes.
And sometimes they may make a comment to others, but otherwise, at least they're thinking mentally. And so whether you're yelling at the kids or yelling at your spouse is not a good model. But if you're showing a spirit of cooperation, it is an excellent model, and that people can see that good things still happen in positive relationships.
Yeah. A closing remark would be what to say something practical that a family can do today to take that first step to rebuilding their marriage and enhancing their marriage. What would it be, either of you?
Spend 10 minutes together and say encouraging words to one another.
All right.
Every day.
And you see, you're 41 years of proof of that, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good. Well, Dwayne and Bonnie, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing with us and our audience on Joy in Our Town. We hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewers, for watching us today. I'm your host, Coach Steve Robinson. I'll see you next time on Joy in Our Town.
More than 600 people are living with HIV and AIDS in the Quad Cities.
Over 150 of them don't know it.
The Project of the Quad Cities provides support to hundreds of individuals and their families in Iowa and Illinois.
We've performed thousands of confidential HIV tests and helped HIV-positive mothers give birth to 18 HIV-negative babies.
Our mission, your life, the Project of the Quad Cities, committed to action in the battle against HIV, STI, AIDS.
See these hands? They grip the wheel of a Humvee in Afghanistan.
These hands? 6 years treating soldiers.
12 years flying choppers.
We know you're strong, but sometimes you need a helping hand. You served us. Now let us serve you. The Iowa City VA Healthcare System.
You're watching TBN, part of the Trinity Broadcasting family of networks.
Got a new TV, computer, or cell phone? Waste Commission of Scott County will properly recycle your old e-waste, so don't worry about your data and information. Not sure what items are considered e-waste? It's simple. Anything with a screen or circuit board. No appointment necessary. Just stop by our e-waste facility to drop off your items. The best part? It's free for Scott and Rock Island County residents. E-waste recycling. Good for the environment, easy for you.
Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Lori Pierce. Today, we're welcoming Wayne and Janine Allen, Counseling Directors of Freedom Ministries of the Quad Cities. Wayne and Janine, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lori.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, we're going to talk about true love. Could you tell us a little bit about Freedom Ministries and what you do in the community?
Freedom Ministries is a ministry of helping couples to find true emotional intimacy and their relationship with each other. And so they meet with us, and we spend time sharing biblical principles that guide them into this intimacy that we're talking about. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. So if you had to describe a healthy marriage, how would you describe that?
Go ahead.
I think a healthy marriage is when a husband and wife know how to honestly speak to each other and know how to discuss problems without a lot of emotional charge and anger and arguing and fighting.
Sure.
Knowing how to care for each other even when things get difficult.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a heart connection that the husband and wife have with each other. They're sympathetic with each other. They know how to care more about each other than they do about themselves. that's what a healthy marriage is.
Yeah. And why do you feel that's really important?
So many people come to us and they just can't get along. They're
Yeah.
fighting. They're withdrawing from each other. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to give and receive love. And so they want help.
Yeah. And how amazing that you guys are here in the Quad Cities to help with that. That's wonderful. How is love between a husband and wife unique?
How is it unique? Well, the question is, do couples really love each other? Do they understand what love is?
Sure.
So often we see couples who have a platonic relationship. They've been together for years, but they don't know what love is, how to express themselves, how to care for the other person, how to be sensitive, tender, and gentle, how to listen. I'm not sure that couples always know what love really is.
Right. Yeah, every marriage goes through ups and downs, but how can a couple really recognize when their marriage is on the rocks? Is there any signs?
Often they want out of the marriage. Often the woman realizes something is wrong. Often the husband doesn't notice it, and then she reaches her limit and says, I'm out of here. And then the husband will come to us and say, help, my wife is fed up with our relationship. What should I do? But that's okay. That can be a beginning of finding some answers and some solutions to repair the damage in the relationship.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it has to come to that point, especially for the husband, to realize there's something wrong. Women tend to be more emotional and more vocal, more interested in the emotional part of the relationship, and the husband is more of a doer. He goes to work every day and comes home and feels like that's his responsibility. Now it's time just to rest and relax and do what I want to do. And he doesn't understand there needs to be connection, needs to be relationship, and so.
Yeah. Well, how could you introduce counseling to your spouse without really kind of pressing the issue and making things worse?
Often the wife will get upset and then pressure the husband, and that often doesn't make him want to get help. So if a wife would come to us and ask, how do I get my husband interested? We would suggest that she work through forgiveness, because often there's a bitterness in her life from the way he's hurt her, and he can't hear her express herself when she has bitterness inside. So we would take her through some forgiveness prayers to forgive him for the ways that he has hurt her. That way she's not quite as angry and upset when she talks to him, and there's a better chance that he would listen to what she has to say.
Sure. Do you find that you tend to see one spouse coming in before you actually start the couples together?
Sometimes it's one spouse, sometimes they come together. It just depends.
Yeah.
Usually we see wives who come without their husband.
Sure.
Sometimes we'll have a husband come and a wife is not interested. She has decided there's no more hope.
Yeah.
And so he'll show up and want to do something to change so that he can, resolve the issues that they're facing, restore the relationship.
Yeah. Well, what are some areas that you explore during the counseling?
There are three main areas that we deal with. One is emotional issues, another is abuse issues, and another is spiritual issues. Emotional issues are things like abandonment, neglect, rejection. Perhaps a child has grown up in a home with a mom who is so filled with emotional pain that she pours all of her pain into the child. And so that child is emotionally drained. And then they grow up, they get married to someone who's just like mom. And so they feel drained emotionally. So those are emotional issues. Those things often start at birth. You can't choose the family that you grew up in, that you were born into, the community that you came from. Then those things then affect who you become as you mature and as you grow older. Oftentimes we see people who come in, especially women who have experienced sexual abuse and emotional abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. And so that destroys a person's heart, the emotional part of who they are. The spiritual issues are then choices that person makes. They become bitter, or they become angry, or perhaps they become rebellious and defiant because of what they've experienced. Or oftentimes men get involved in moral failure, immorality, to cover up the pain that they've felt. Pride is another one. Hypocrisy. And so those three particular areas are the things that we look for in trying to identify, where the person's problem is and help them to find a solution.
Wow. Yeah. Well, how frequently do couples need to come for counseling? Does that vary depending on the individual couple, or is there kind of a set schedule you have?
It's when the problems get difficult enough for them to realize they have a need. And some couples are 50s or older, and we get some couples that are still in their 20s or 30s.
Sure.
It's more common to get people in their 30s, I think, because they're more aware of the tension in their marriage and want to resolve it so that they don't mess up their children and cause a lot of pain in their children's lives.
Yeah. Well, whenever I think of counseling, marriage counseling, I guess I always think of married couples. But do you guys do marriage counseling per se with non-married couples?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah. In fact, we just use the same principles with an individual that we would with a married couple, because people are people.
Absolutely.
It's all, the issues are all the same. There's some variations, but we all desire to be loved, and we're hungry and desperate for someone to care about our hearts. And so we just use the same principles in sharing with them what will help them to find healing and freedom in their life.
And to start their marriage off healthy.
In a premarital setting.
Right,
That's what you're
yeah.
talking about too.
Yeah. So that's wonderful.
We'll have, on occasion, we'll have a young couple come and want premarital counseling. And so we use the same material in helping them to get prepared.
Yes.
What is it going to look like? And what are the things that need to be resolved in my life so that I can care about my spouse, the young woman or the young man, as I'm thinking about a life with this person.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, of course, everyone's going to have some struggles throughout their marriage, but hopefully they can be reduced before marriage so that they don't have to deal with the big serious things down the road. So.
Yeah. So when couples come to you for counseling, is everything confidential?
Yes. Anyone in our office has to sign a confidentiality statement, and nothing is to be repeated to anyone else.
Yeah.
If they want us to talk to another counselor or their pastor or someone like that, they would have to sign a release form.
That's great. Well, if viewers wanted more resources or a couple wanted more information, where could they go?
We have a website, freedomministriesofqc.org.
Okay.
And on the website, there's lots of information about us and our ministry and how we help people, not just couples, but individuals also.
That's wonderful. Well, do either of you have any closing thoughts about marriage that you would like our viewers to know?
Well, in having a relationship with your spouse, we're thinking about the theme of our visit here today.
Yes.
Being best friends with your spouse, true love. And we believe that to have the kind of intimate relationship at the heart level with your spouse, we have to resolve these inner conflicts from our past before we can enjoy each other and understand each other. And oftentimes we'll use questions to develop intimacy in a relationship. And so I'll have a husband face his wife, hold her hands and look into her eyes and ask her questions, or vice versa. Questions like this: have you felt loved by me? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you feel loved by me right now? And you're going to find out if they're honest.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt rejected? Who made you feel that way? Have I made you feel rejected? How can I make you feel accepted? So I'm caring about that person. Do you ever feel lonely? When was the first time you ever felt lonely? What was that like? And then, as I'm, if I'm the spouse caring about, my wife in front of me here, I'm holding her hands, looking to her eyes, what if I open my heart and start to care about you? I think every wife is just waiting for her husband to ask that question.
Sure.
Because men, and I am one, can be so self-focused that we don't really understand what's going on with our spouse. And so to ask questions that help my spouse, my wife, my husband feel safe, to open their heart up, that's where intimacy really begins. So.
That's wonderful and very thought-provoking questions and important. And, I just thank you both, Wayne and Janine, for coming and talking about true love and how to be best friends with our spouse. So wonderful information today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Joy in Our Town.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.
You're watching TBN, part of the Trinity Broadcasting family of networks.